Claudia Vaughn. I'm with TheThings, and I'm so excited to be sitting down today with Olivia Plath from Welcome to Plathville. Thank you so much for being here. Really excited that we get to have this conversation because this season has covered so much. And I have so many questions, so I'll see how much time we have to get to everything. But first, I would love to know just your experience being on the show, but also as a viewer. Do you ever watch the episodes back at all? Is that something that you're in the habit of doing?
I think when I was friends with more of the cast members, I used to watch more of the show. We would like sit down and sometimes watch episodes together. And I don't sit down and watch the show that same way anymore. I'll watch like specific scenes. Sometimes I'll be like, I really want to know how that scene came out. Like, how was that? How did that be edited? How did it come together? And I'll go like watch a scene, usually with a friend of mine who has a lot of comments and it's quite entertaining to watch.
I believe it. Have you had the chance to check out any particular scenes from this current season?
I think I've watched most of the scenes that I was in. The few that I wanted to see was like when I met with Mariah and had to talk with her. I wanted to see how that came out. I wanted to see like what she had to say about it. And I wanted to watch the scene where my boyfriend was introduced, because I had a feeling that like I was being really cringy that day. Like when the day ended, I was like, wait, what did I do today? I feel like I was really cringy. So when that came out, I was like, I have to watch this. I have to know what other people are going to see and comment on. And I feel really bad for everyone who watched it. So, anyways, I guess I lost my vocabulary that day.
Oh, it was really cute. I mean, it was funny the way that it was edited, how many times you guys say I love you, but I thought it read really sweet and precious and wholesome, and I didn't think it was cringy at all. But that's very funny to hear from your perspective. What was it like? I recently watched the scene with you and Mariah. What was it like when you met with her? And particularly, what was your reaction when you heard that she was going to be releasing a song based on your relationship?
When I heard that she was releasing a song based on like my and her relationship, I could believe it and I also couldn't believe it. I was just kind of like, wait, what? And then I listened to a tiny bit of it and then I turned it off and I was like, oh no, oh no. Um, when she reached out to meet with me, I honestly thought she didn't send the text. I thought that somebody else had sent it because it didn't sound like her. I was still kind of like, you know what? I feel like I got my closure, but I think I think part of it was like I didn't feel like anybody gave me, room to mess up and grow up. And so I was like, if I can offer that to her as someone who was once a sister, then like I'll hear her out. I'll see what she has to say. And the other part of it, I think, is that their family has this idea that I like hold these grudges and I never like let people change and I like, don't accept apologies, don't all this stuff. And I was like, well, let me just show them. Like they say that, it's impossible to have a conversation with me. And I don't think that it is. I think that I can actually do a pretty good job of listening and understanding people. I feel in a good enough headspace to offer that to Mariah, just to see what she has to say. So, yeah.
I feel like as a viewer who's not at all living it, I feel like it's a theme throughout the show that you're willing to take the high road and have these hard conversations and hear people out. And I can't imagine the kind of strength that takes. So I'm always very impressed and I'm always like really rooting for you whenever these things happen. What is your relationship like with the rest of the Plaths today? Are you in contact with them? Do you ever talk to Ethan either?
No, I actually saw most of them this weekend at another family cousin wedding, and no interaction, no talking at all. And it's not like I have anything against them. It's just that they are clearly very uncomfortable around me, and don't want to make any eye contact and don't want to like acknowledge me. And I'm not going to sit around and make it awkward. Like I'm going to live my best life. So I was at the cousin's wedding. I love the Minnesota cousins so much. I was just visiting with everyone, having a good time, and our paths never crossed. They made sure to keep away from me, and I wasn't going to seek that out.
One thing that comes up earlier in the season is obviously you're talking about going to therapy. I know you had tried previously to push Ethan to go into therapy. It didn't work. But just speaking to your own experience in therapy, have there been any, impactful takeaways or realizations that have really been super significant to you in your own growth?
I honestly think that therapy helped me realize how unregulated I was. I look back at, the first couple of years of being married and season 2, 3, 4 of the show. And I look at how much I cried all the time. I look at how like I felt so depressed. Like my mental health took took a nosedive. And I look back at that now I I almost don't recognize the person who, like, when Ethan would be like, I'm going to Cairo, I would just start crying. And I couldn't understand why I reacted the way that I did. I felt crazy, which was also reinforced by the Plaths being like, why can't you just get along with our family? And
Right.
I couldn't explain like the visceral reactions that I had to things. And going to therapy and starting to like kind of unpack some of that helped me realize that I was really emotionally unregulated, which is why I couldn't stop myself from crying and reacting and having panic attacks when I had to think about seeing Kim or whatever. There's so much work to be done in therapy on me, particularly. I can only speak for myself. Talking about takeaways from it, I don't know. I think if I came face to face with Kim today, I wouldn't freak out. I think that I'm at a place in my life where I'm like, wow, it's someone who did treat me well and has their own issues, and it was never really about me. I'm not scared of her. And if you had asked me that in season 4, going to a graveside memorial, I had a panic attack and I couldn't even think about that. So, if anything, therapy has helped me to kind of like regulate my own self, and just work on like what's here, this parameter, and not worry about all the other outside factors. Knowing that if I'm okay with myself inside, I'll have the strength to handle all those different things when they come up. Maybe not perfectly, but better and better each time.
What is it like also during those difficult moments to, sometimes have producers in your orbit and, cameras everywhere, maybe in moments when you don't really feel like having a conversation that's being filmed?
I think honestly, at some point, you start to forget about the cameras. Just like after so many years of doing it, you kind of forget that they're there. As far as producers, they have a job to do, and we have amazing producers. There have been moments where I've been like, I hate that you are asking me this question, and I do not want to talk about this, even though I know per your job this is relevant and you need to ask me this. Like, I don't want to talk. I just want to walk away from this. But at the end of the day, I can honestly say that when I look at like growing as a person, I can attribute some of that to the producers for asking hard questions and kind of there have been many times in interviews where I've been talking about something and one of our producers will be like, okay, because I know that you want this, I'm going to challenge what you said because it doesn't seem like a full representation of the story. You're sounding a little victimy right now. And she was like, I can't say this to everyone in an interview chair, but because I know that you want to grow as a person, I want to hold that mirror up and give you the opportunity to look at it differently. So I can honestly say that like a lot of the things that I've been able to question my own life, and grow from have been because of producers, and I'm honestly really really grateful for that.
Something else that I've really loved seeing this season, I know this is in the past few now, but was dipping back into the dating pool for the first time. And I really, really loved this moment in one of your interviews when you're talking about kind of learning or relearning maybe that you don't need a man to kind of build up your own confidence. You don't need a man to tell you that you're pretty in order to believe it. So I guess prior to getting into your relationship now, what was it like, that experience of building your confidence back up?
I mean, growing up in purity culture, a woman is told that you basically live to be with men and for the approval of men. And I think the best way that I can describe it is growing up believing that everything should be done according to the male gaze and like what men want you to look like. It was really liberating when I finally got to the point of like, wait, do I actually care what they think? Like, I want to like what I look like. And I would rather my girlfriends hype me up and tell me that they love what I did. And honestly, at the end of the day, I think it came down to like when my girlfriends were way more supportive, and better hype women than my partner, I was like, something's off here. Something's really off here. I feel way more fulfilled and loved in those relationships than the person I married. So yeah, I think that helped me to kind of like shift it of I don't need a man to tell me that I look good to feel like I look good. I actually think that I will attract the kind of partner I want if I'm more confident and secure in myself and I present myself as this is who I am. This is how I look. This is what I find attractive. And the right person will be like, hell yeah, you're confident. I love that.
Yeah, obviously, and I should say I've seen up through the most recent episodes, so we finally get to be friended on camera. And so, as you were saying, I would love to know what made you or the two of you decide to kind of bring him on camera at the point in the season that we finally get to see him.
That was a really big decision for him. He's more of a private person. And we had a lot of conversations. When we first started talking, I didn't tell him that I was on a reality show for a while because I was just like, that's weird to lead with. But like a couple months into texting and talking since we were long distance, he was like, so I kind of heard about this, like fill me in. And I was like, all right, the day has come. You will learn about this. Yep, I have a public life. It's kind of what it entails. And we weren't exclusively dating at that point. But when we started exclusively dating a couple months later, when he asked me to be his girlfriend, one of the things I told him up front was like, before I say yes, here are some things you need to know. And one is that I have a public life and people know about like what goes on in my life. And if you're someone that's going to date me, that's going to come out at some point and we're going to talk about it. And like, are you comfortable with that? So just a lot of conversations leading up to the show. What did that look like? What did we want to show? How did we want to do it? Being on the show was definitely outside his comfort zone. But he was like, you know what? I love you. This is a big part of your life and I'll be a little bit uncomfortable. It's totally fine. He's not on social media. He purposely took a break because he was like, I don't want people's opinions and comments and all these things being said. I don't want to get in my own head about myself. So I honestly really respect that. I really respect a man prioritizing his mental health and, you know, taking those steps. Yeah, I don't talk about him as much on social media. I don't really post about him a lot because we do keep our relationship a little bit on the quieter side to allow him to have a more private life. But when it came to the show and filming, we knew that we have some autonomy over, you know, what we do and what we say. And that felt like a good way to kind of like dip our toes in and let everyone kind of meet him in a more controlled way than social media.
I would love to know more about like what his initial reaction was when you officially like filled him in on the background of the reality show and filming and all that. I take it he took it well, but was he a little surprised?
No. He when he first followed me on social media, he was like, he had never seen the show. And he was like, wow, she has a lot of followers. Like, I guess she's a really popular photographer. And when he told me that later, I was like, oh my gosh, no, not that much. So like he learned little pieces at a time. Honestly, he handled it all in stride and is so supportive and just understanding. Like even me being at a wedding this past weekend with some of the Minnesota cousins and seeing Ethan and his family there, he was like, have the best time. Like send me pictures if you want. Like you're going to be fine. You're going to crush it. So just a very secure person.
Well, I'm sure that we will see more of him in the rest of the season. But is there anything that just you personally would want people to know about Reddit that we don't already know or that we might not pick up that you want to share?
I've seen a lot of comments online about like what he wears and how he does his hair and all these things. And I think that honestly, it's really sad that that's what people fixate on. So often we tend to judge what somebody looks like. And I think that there's so many words that are used for people that are meant to be a dig that aren't. Calling someone dorky or a nerd or any of these things, I think is actually like, when it's meant to be a dig, it's really sad because humans are all so different. Everyone, you know, reacts to life differently and dresses differently and cares about different things. And, you know, maybe I've been saying one of these days, we're going to go get him a nice spiffy haircut. But in the meantime, like, as a person, his soul is just so kind and so supportive. And just like his view on the world is, how do I make it better around me? Whether that's keeping water in my car to give to every homeless person I pass, or taking time to notice like all of the insects that are around me and making sure that I don't step on them and kill them, letting them out of my apartment when they get in because they deserve to live too. Like as a person, he's just so kind. And yeah, I wish people, maybe a lot of people have, but I wish some of the haters would give him a chance.
Well, I think you guys are absolutely adorable and how special and strong of a connection you guys have. I feel like it's already coming through. So I'm really excited to see more. It's interesting hearing you talk about what people kind of take away from what they watch in the show, because obviously we're only given a small snippet or whatever the producers decide to put in. So just more generally speaking, is there any way in which you feel like you yourself are misunderstood from the way that you are shown on the show, or anything that you would want to share with viewers?
No, I think honestly, there's a lot of heavy topics coming out of fundamentalism that require really big, heavy, weighty conversations. And that's not really show material. It's not something a lot of people are going to want to watch or relate to or want to sit through. So it's trying to find like, how do I approach these topics in a way that is a little bit more lighthearted, that is a little bit more TV worthy, that people want to see or will relate to. And it comes out in funnier ways, such as having a sex party that everyone thinks is super awkward and weird, and I can't understand why. And it's kind of like this balancing act of like, how do I talk about things that I am struggling with without just sitting in an interview and talking all the time? Like, how do I translate that to real life? How do I bring other people into it with me? How do I kind of like make this more lighthearted? And yeah, some of those things that people are like, why would they ever have a sex party like that? I sometimes wish there was a little bit more context, but I also realize that that happens off the show. You know, the show is just a little snippet of my life. And if I want to talk more about things like that, if I want to talk about deconstruction and fundamentalism, that's the better place to do that is on my social platforms, which is what I started doing a little bit more recently.
Is there anything else that we can look forward to the season, or anything else that we didn't cover that you wanted to share?
I know that the finale is coming up for the season, and I haven't even seen it myself, but I've heard it's a wild ride. I know that I decide to move from LA, and I know that that comes up in the finale. I think that Mariah's boyfriend comes up in the finale. I know that there's some drama, and I'm not a part of it. So, so I think there's probably a few more bombs to be dropped in the finale, and then honestly, I think the finale teases a lot of change, and probably more stuff will keep coming out on social media in the months after the show finishes airing.
Oh, fantastic. I can't wait. Are we to take it that you may not be long distance anymore? Or do we have to wait to find out?
We'll have to wait and find out.
Oh,
I'm
man.
so
Okay, well. That's okay. I'm happy to know I don't have to wait too much longer. This was fantastic. Thank you so much for taking the time. I really appreciate it. You always have the most thoughtful things to say, and this was no exception. So I really appreciate it.
So much for having me. I appreciate you.